Yeah, sorry. I should have hit record before I made you.
It's okay.
Um,
Got a new computer with tons of room on it, so
yeah, exactly.
sorry, I'm gonna pick my teeth.
Right, all right. Okay. So I'll just keep it like that so that I can work on this as people go through. I won't worry about names, but um, that'll be captured in the recording.
Want to see what I look like. I don't like to keep my own view up, but they're okay. Hi, Nora. I like to take myself off so I'm not, distracted by seeing what I look like.
Okay, well, I'm just going to stop sharing there because I'm going to need to start admitting people. So they may also
Well,
come up
it
on
looks like
yours.
I can admit people.
Then fine, whoever gets to them first. Yeah,
Okay.
just start admitting them.
Yeah, I'll get a glass of water. I'll be back in a couple of
Yep.
minutes. Myself on mute. Jillian, do you not have a camera or you prefer not to be visible? You're on mute if you're talking to me. Maybe she's not at her desk now.
Yeah, she may have just logged on early and then, getting a cup of tea or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll deal with that once everybody's on. I just kind of like to see people.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll turn it off if, John walks in or something, just like turn that off, or if the phone rings or.
For
uh,
sure. Yeah.
if I'm eating sometimes, because it's like nobody wants to see that.
Well, if you're just watching a, webinar or something, then yeah, there's no need to be visible.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I won't share. I mean, if people want to, I can, but if not, I can just take notes here. I mean, and it is being recorded anyway. So if we can all talk to each other, that might actually be better because if we have the document up, then we're all really small on the screen. So
That's true. But I think, well, don't put it up until we get to that item, but I just
yeah,
thought having it on the screen helps people kind of go, okay, we've already said that. So, I mean,
right.
we can add it again. It doesn't matter that much. Sort of
Yeah.
brainstorming where you don't want to, limit
Yeah.
people's fluid thought processes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to do conference reporting. I can talk, I can sometimes type as fast as people talk, so not today probably.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty fast too, but
Yeah.
it depends on whether I'm trying to listen to what they're saying as well.
Well, exactly. This is why I suggested why don't I do it, then you can focus. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. That's good. Thank you.
are you coming to the summit on Saturday?
I think I probably will. I haven't signed up
Yeah.
yet, but I was just feeling really like rather charged with things to do, and I think now I'm kind of I just finished the newsletter for the Rock Garden Society, and I don't know what else I had to. Well, I had a, went to my rug hooking group on Saturday, and
Yeah.
it's just one thing and another, and was filling up my time. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, no, I'm too tired to do it. But this is beside the topic, but I went back to the path again yesterday and did find those. There's actually 3 footpaths between the multi-use pathway and the first lateral, or like east-west path
Oh, yeah.
that
Okay.
connects those. I had somehow either hadn't seen them, or I'd only marked them by, I thought I was marking them by kind of moving off the trail and back on, like trying to make
Yeah.
a little pointy thing, which
Yeah.
just might not have shown on the map that I shared, because the word Carlington Woods is right on top of that spot.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I mean, it's helpful, but I mean, even like I defer to Erica because she knows the woods so well, and compared to what she remembers and compared to Holly's map, she was saying she's fairly happy that it hasn't really changed a whole heck of a lot, unlike Hampton, which is, just more spaghetti goo, but
yeah, well, that's why I thought maybe in the winter there are fewer paths,
yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe that's not so much the case really.
Mm,
Because you can tell, like the woods are dense enough so that if somebody does put a path, then it's pretty visible.
yeah. Well, and with the winters we have, right? I mean, like okay, the last little, several weeks has been snowy and whatever, but when we get thaws and then, there you go, somebody's through.
Yeah,
Yeah. So where is everybody?
yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking that somehow oh, here's the new one.
There's Tony.
Yeah, I guess that's a good sign.
Yes. I always worry on these things. It's like, are people getting the link?
I
I did one
know.
last report. There's 15 people registered. So
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Hello, Anthony.
Yes, good evening,
Hi,
friend of Hampton Carlington, and Nora.
that's me. And Jillian is there too, but hiding for the moment. Because people
I
like
will,
to cut it close, like, why be there early when you could be on time?
there we go. I'll put my proper name in,
Okay.
my real name.
Well, all participants. I'm just looking at my host tools.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just continue, I'll let people in.
Sure.
They show up. You can chat with people and make them feel welcome.
Yeah.
What a great bookshelf you have, Tony. My goodness, I'm very, very jealous of all of that.
That's only about a quarter of it.
Oh,
That's what I figured.
It's amazing. It's the major reason why I can't leave this house.
right. Hmm.
Yeah, they are very difficult to part with, that's for sure. No,
Hi, Heather. Hi, Barbara. We're hoping that people will let themselves be visible once we start the meeting, because nice to be able to see who's talking and all
Yes, don't be shy.
that.
Okay. Hi, you guys. I think I was muted.
Oh,
This is Heather. And
now
now
I'm
I'm going
here.
to try and show my video. There we go. Okay.
Hello, there you are.
Hi,
Barbara.
Barbara. Nice. Hi,
And
Jillian.
there's Jillian.
Hello.
Hey,
People, we're going to be meeting a lot of new people, at least I will be. I'm very pleased with the response, though. Almost everybody, and then a couple more, a few more people were suggested by some of the others.
and here comes Brian. Have you met Brian, Nora?
Haven't actually met him, no.
Okay. So it's been a bit of a rough last few days being Canadian.
Yeah.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian. Or something. This one is coming. Hello.
Oh, Owen's here. Yeah, I missed the walk that he led in Carlington on Saturday, which was a pity. It was too cold and I woke up late.
Gosh, I didn't know about it.
It was an OFNC one, so
Oh,
you have to become a member, Nora.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, we'll try that again.
What walk is that, Sharon?
Oh, Owen Clarkin had led a walk in the Carlington Woods as for the Ottawa Field Naturalists. Yeah, so unfortunately I couldn't make it, but hopefully I'll. There he is.
Hello, and who else just joined? Viola, hi, Viola.
Viola and Eugenie. Yeah.
And Jeannie.
Hi there. I'll put myself on mute.
Yeah, until I need you to talk. For now. Hi, Eugenie. We're going to get smaller and smaller on the screen. That's the way it works. Christina Keys said she's not going to be able to join until a bit later. About almost an hour in, I think. Oh, Suzanne.
Yep. Here comes Suzanne. So how did the walk go, Owen? Did you have a good turnout? I know it was bloody nippy.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty good event in the sense that it's a nice spot and good excuse to go outside. But indeed, despite me warning in the description to dress for the weather, I think only about half the people dress for the weather. So a good third to a half had to tap out pretty quickly because they were too cold. I dressed for the weather and I was quite warm. I was almost too warm actually, but just sort of depends how many layers you put on.
Yeah.
How
I
many
woke up
people did come?
I'd say about 25 or so, and I probably had about 12-ish after halfway through the event. I made sure to circle back twice to where the cars and meeting spot was so that people could leave if they were too cold.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was minus 20 at the worst, minus 15 or something by the end of the thing. It wasn't that cold. Ottawa used to hit like minus 30, right? So
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just when you're
And we
not
did
moving.
go out.
yeah. And
right,
Sharon,
we-
while we're still waiting for, I guess, the meeting to start, I'm just going to mention I see on Google Maps that it's now Carlington Woods.
Yep.
So maybe my event is the reason why it came in so quickly. Because when I made the event and when I checked a couple days before, it was still Clyde Woods like several days ago. But
Yeah,
now it's
no,
now it's
and
Carlington Woods.
it goes back and forth, and like I think I mentioned to you in the early days, it was us against mountain bikers who kept changing it back and forth.
Well, I can claim some responsibility for calling it
And
Clyde
Nora,
Woods at one point.
at one point, yeah, but we had an issue, right? And it was hard enough just trying to get people to recognize the place, let alone under 3 or 4 different names, which sometimes it was.
Yeah,
Hopefully it
well,
stays like that.
hopefully it stays put now.
Yeah. Nora, I think we are at our full complement of 15.
Okay, really, eh? All right.
We may be missing one person because I didn't have to register. So
All right. Well, then let's get going then.
one, maybe.
Was that one more person? No.
No, don't worry about
All right. Well, it is 7:05 on my watch. It's probably a little later than that. 7:07. So, and I'll declare the meeting starting. Not that I'm going to be super formal about all this, but again, I welcome you all to this first meeting, or maybe only meeting, but you never know. Hopefully not the only meeting, about just gathering people who are trying to manage Buckthorn in wherever their corner of the city is. And there are lots of corners that have Buckthorn. So I think we're just kind of skimming the surface with the people we've got so far. And what I wanted to do first was, as I mentioned, just kind of go around, and I'll name people so that you don't have to wonder if you should go next. Hi, Christine Johnson. And just ask you to say your name and where you're working on buckthorn removal. And then lastly, maybe how long you've been working at it. And I think as a second item on the agenda, we'll talk about challenges that people are having, so that it's more of a general discussion at that stage. And Sharon said she would take notes for us. So I guess we can get started then. So Anthony, you were the, I'll ask Sharon maybe at the end. How's that, Sharon? Or whatever, because she's working with me mostly. But so Anthony, can you get us started?
Yeah, Anthony Gaston. I used to be a research scientist with Environment Canada. Some of my work involved introduced species, and I've been working out in Haida Gwaii with invasive plant eradication, along with a bunch of other things. And I haven't done anything about buckthorn, but I am a bit concerned about it, so I thought I'd join in.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And that's about the length of time I'd like people to speak. So as we just get going. So Heather, how about you next?
Okay. Well, I've been working with Nora this past year in the Carlington Woods. So that's the main thing I've done. Hope to continue. Two other smaller things I'll mention. I worked in Carlton Place on a private property with somebody who's specializing in buckthorn removal, starting a small business. Doesn't work in this area, but I convinced him to come to Carlton Place. And I'm going to try and maintain that bit of woods going forward. And I'm hearing about other private owners who are concerned about buckthorn on their property. So I'm just keeping my ears open for that. And my sister is involved in Toronto's, in two groups, the one led by the city, removing invasive species, and also the Toronto Nature Stewards that are doing the same thing. Yeah. Okay.
Great. And I'll just mention, I forgot to mention that we are recording this. So I hope that's okay with everybody. It's just going to be, I'm not going to keep it for a long time, and it's just to make sure we've got the notes and people who can't make it to this one can watch it again. So I hope that's okay. Barbara Long, you're next on my screen.
Yeah, Hi. So I'm in Hintonburg, and we have an environment committee, and I'm the co-chair of that, the Hintonburg Community Association. I'm also with the Master Gardeners of Ottawa Carleton. So I'm wearing kind of two hats here, but mostly the Hintonburg Community Association. I work with some of the schools in the neighborhood, and last summer I helped Connet School remove some buckthorn. Right now, I don't know where the biggest, infestation, if you will, of buckthorn would be in Hindenburg, but because we have that outreach to the community association, via our website and so on, we'll be gathering information on where the problem is. And we purchased an extractigator, so we have that available to our members to borrow to remove the buckthorn. So anyway, that's me. Thank you. Thanks, Norley, for organizing this. Got a really good group of people. I know we'll learn a lot from each other. Thank you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that too. Thanks, Barbara. I'll go to Jillian Cooper next.
Hello, I'm with the Alta Vista Community Association, and two of my colleagues are with me tonight, or I think they're also here.
Jillian, do you want me to introduce a bit first?
Yes, go for it. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. We've got three people here because I'm the contact person with Wild Pollinator Partnerships. I've got to know Nora and Sharon and Sandra and a bunch of you. And so I'm on the board of the Alta Vista Community Association, and on the committee, the Green Space Stewardship Committee, chaired by Jillian. And Suzanne, that's here with us, is our lead on invasives removal. So I've been working more with some other members of our committee on even though I'm also doing all the invasives removal with the small group led by Suzanne, also doing all of the restoration in terms of the planting. We got to keep up with all of these enthusiastic removal types and to replace all the stuff. So I'm working madly with another subcommittee, I guess you could say, on the winter sowing and all that. So anyway, I'll pass it back to Jillian, and then I guess Suzanne will be talking more about the specifics about our management projects on how we've been doing that. Sorry, it's Jillian.
Okay, well, I'll just mention that we're with the Green Space Stewardship Committee of the Alta Vista Community Association, and we got a consent to enter to allow us to remove buckthorn from Cunningham Woods last year. And thanks to efforts by previous hardworking people, Gretchen and Anthony Denton, we managed, there wasn't as much buckthorn in those woods as you might have expected, and we were able to get almost all of it last year. So that's pretty amazing. We're hoping to be able to do it again this year just to keep up with Cunningham, and we've applied to work in Pleasant Park Woods as well. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. I'll pass it over to Suzanne, who's the main instigator of the actual buckthorn removal in those woods.
I can say that our primary experience has been with removing dog strangling vine in other areas, but because of its a growing return to Cunningham Woods, we focused there this late summer and fall. And I really want to thank Sandra Garland with making available to us always the tools to help pull it up there, and from the wildlife French Wildlife Garden, and also to Nora for I got to have a great visit to go and learn from the work in Carlington and coming to help us on our first time. Hopefully, Pleasant Park Woods is a very vulnerable area. They're off Pleasant Park, you may know it, and it's really getting taken over with buckthorn. So we're really hoping to get permission to go in there this year.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alta Vista folks. Go to Brian next, Brian DeWalt.
Hi, I'm with Action Sandy Hill Environment Committee. I'm the co-chair. We have been working on a project, an ongoing project down at the Rideau River at the south end of Strathcona Park, where there is a significant buckthorn infestation beginning roughly where the Ottawa footbridge is, and extending south from there all the way to the Queensway. This past fall, we tackled about 250 meters of riverbank south of the bridge and north of Mann Avenue. And so the stretch from Mann Avenue roughly north, almost to within about 150 meters of the bridge is now clear of buckthorn. We used a couple different methods that we can go into later. So some buckthorn have not been removed, but have been cut back essentially for future treatment. And we have applied for a grant from the Invasive Species Action Fund for the coming year to go back and complete the removal of buckthorn up to the bridge. And we're hoping to get word on that. We also did replanting with native species in the areas where we removed buckthorn. I also work with Sandy at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden on removing buckthorn there as one of many other things that we do there.
Super. Thank you, Brian. We'll go to Rosemary next.
Hi there. I have primarily been trying to eliminate buckthorn on my own property, but I became aware of Iola Price's work by Mackay Lake and the pond. And I had noticed as I do my walks through Stanley Park by the Rideau River that there's significant buckthorn in the stretch starting at the St. Patrick Bridge and going north all the way to the Minto Bridges. And so I contacted Iola and just asked her if how I could get connected, and she then opened this whole world up to me. So that's how I'm here.
Yes, you've just come along at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, timing is everything.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Owen, you're next.
Hi, everybody. I'm the president of the Ottawa Field Naturalist Club, longstanding chair of the Conservation Committee until this January. And I have a strong interest in invasive species, also rare declining species, and naturalization generally. Buckthorn, I'm interested in, I think the one that you're all talking about, which is Rhamnus cathartica, the really thorny one. I also wonder if this group has any activities regarding the other very invasive buckthorn, Frangula alnus, or are we talking about both? I'd be curious to know as this meeting progresses, because they're both probably equally bad ecologically. I also track the native one, which is very rare, Rhamnus alnifolia, and happy to be part of this discussion group and to see where this goes.
Super. Thank you, Owen. Yeah, I don't, just briefly on the glossy, I haven't seen it, but then I haven't been everywhere in Carlington Woods.
If I can quickly comment on that, that one's very remarkably aggressive in wetter, lower pH soils. So very, very bad. Probably as bad, maybe worse. I don't know. They're really bad.
And we have some areas like that in the woods for sure. So
yeah, it's like Pleasant Park, for example, in the lower areas, it's very bad there, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so I think we shouldn't ignore that, and thanks for bringing that up. And I did notice on iNaturalist, Owen, that you had seen one of the native, the native one in Carlington Woods not that long ago. So
if I can quickly comment on that. So the native buckthorn in Carlington Woods is the only known location inside the Greenbelt of Ottawa.
Wow.
So it's pretty rare for the most part.
You might want to show me where it is so that we don't do something we shouldn't.
Happy to do it.
Okay, thanks, Owen. So Eugenie, you're next. And am I saying your name right?
Hi, yeah, it's Eugenie Waters, and I'm in Manor Park. I'm the chair of the Environment Committee for the Manor Park Community Association. And Christina Keys, who you mentioned, is coming a bit later, but she's currently doing winter sowing with the local Scouts group, in part related to one of our invasive species removal projects. And yeah, so we have mostly been working on education and a little bit of removal within our neighborhood. And we did some more removal this fall, borrowing some of the tools from Ocean, the Extractigator, and the Ottawa South Eco Action Network. at a church property, so St. Columba Anglican Church. And we also have permission where we've been working a little bit on some dog strangling vine at another church property in our neighborhood. And but yeah, we have sort of a few ideas for a broader program, or and so we've also applied to the Invasive Species Action Fund, looking to get some funding for some more tools that we can use for our projects, and also hopefully loan out to local people who are interested in removing buckthorn from their own properties, and or doing community work, and sort of replicating the Ottawa South supply of tools, which we found really helpful. But obviously it's a long way from where we are, and there's no one loaning out tools and sharing them in sort of central east of the Rideau area. So we thought we could start in our area and see how that goes. Yeah, thanks for convening this. It's great.
Okay, great. You can add more comments later. So we've seen Suzanne, Natalie, Christine Johnson, you're next on my screen.
Hi, everybody. I'm from Hunt Club. And listening to everybody else, you seem also well organized. I'm a little bit of a solo artist here, but in any case, I can now identify buckthorn thanks to Owen Clarkin. No big surprise. And I work out of Paul Landry Park, which is a small wooded lot on Uplands Drive between Paulanka Drive and, well, Hunt Club, basically. And mostly doing a lot of the work all by myself, and with a girlfriend who lives across the street. And we haven't been super well organized with our community association. So still haven't done that. We do replant with native species, pollinator gardens. So we're creating a whole bunch of pollinator gardens. And I have 3 questions, or maybe I have to wait for those, but really curious, Owen, about the native buckthorn that you mentioned in Carlington. That surprises me. So that's a good thing, right? That's
It's
a good
not
thing.
it's not all bad news. There's one silver lining in a very dark storm, yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose, right? Well, we could use
Yeah.
that right now in the whole country, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll hold your questions until maybe we get
very
into
good.
that part of the next item, basically. Yeah, Sandra, you're next.
Hi.
Sandy.
Not removing buckthorn at the Fletcher Garden because I have a crew on Tuesday that comes and does it for me, including Brian. But we are removing buckthorn at Brewer Pond in my neighborhood. And also, you'll be happy to know the Fletcher, I'm ordering 2 new not extra gators. I don't like them. Has anybody used a polar bear? Because I want to order polar bears.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Okay, because the weed wrenches that we originally have are the best. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk about it right now, but I'm going to get 2 more, so you'll be able to borrow them.
Good. Okay, you're done, Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay. Got Catherine Lloyd next on my screen. You have to unmute.
Yeah, I have been sort of moving my hand to my mouse. I have too many devices. Catherine Lloyd. I am from New Embrook. I am Friends of the Park for our park. Personally speaking, I have had both buckthorn and Japanese
knotweed.
Knotweed, thank you. I was told it was, Mexican bamboo when we moved in 20 years ago. Anyways, so we have removed both of those 2 from our yard. Knotweed periodically pokes his head up. But the issue is trying to deal with Stanley Park, especially the Panhandle portion. There is huge amounts of the buckthorn all along. There was a brief, sorry, I'm tired. There is a certain initiative to produce a garden, Ottawa. Oh my goodness. Anyways, the names.
Ecology.
Thank you. Ecology Ottawa to work. And it was interesting to note that the city actually shut down the ability to yank them. yanked. Both the dog strangling vine primarily was from that area, was the main one there. But we have worked with the Rideau Valley Conservation in placing plantings, dogwood, that sort of stuff, and commenting on the buckthorn. The main issue for us, from my perspective, since I spent a lot of time in the park walking my dogs, is the skinny strip, as I call it, the panhandle. It is just everywhere. We haven't gotten any initiatives going yet. My hope is to do so. That's a much longer intro than you wanted. Sorry.
That's okay. No, that was about right. So Ron, didn't get to say hello to you when you joined because we were started, but welcome, Ron Ridley, and would you like to go next? You're on mute.
So I'm with Riverview Park Community Association, and we have an environmental group called Friends of Riverview Park Green Spaces. I work with Lynn Patino and Anna Nitisloska a lot. We mainly do buckthorn north of the Hospital Link Road between Alta Vista and Russell. And we have a couple neighborhood groups that we coordinate with to work in different areas of our community.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. And Barbara Long, you're next. You're muted in case you noticed that.
I already spoke, Nora.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Switched you around and then I forgot.
Okay.
And Iola, last but not least.
Thank you. I'm Iola Price. I'm the chair of the Rockcliffe Park Residents Association Environment Committee. I have been removing buckthorn in the Caldwell River Conservation Area since before 2000. So I've been at this a long time. We pull both species of buckthorn, glossy and common. At first, when I started this in 2000 or more or so, didn't know that there were two species because there really wasn't much information. And so we ignored the glossy to our dismay. But it's now, we're pretty much finished. We're now working on the seed bank. There's not much small stuff left, or not much left except small stuff. To counter what Sandra says about the polar bear, I have a polar bear and I also have a weed wrench. I don't like the polar bear. I think it's a poorly made device, and I was thinking that maybe the extractigator might be better, but my advice is think twice about a polar bear. So I'm working on the east side of Mackay Lake and also on some of the streets adjoining that area, working with private property owners to try to expand our area of influence. I have been a member of the Ontario Invasive Plant Council, and I was the president for a while, and working on all of the best management practices documents that have been produced. And I am currently revising the one on buckthorn. That's been a work in progress because we've had other things to do. I have lost track of the number of talks I have given and the places I have been with my weed wrench and polar bear and other utensils to remove buckthorn and other invasive species. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. Thanks very much. I guess that's why the best management practices document on buckthorn is not, on common buckthorn is not up on the site right now, right?
That's right. There's some information that really needs to be changed, and so they pulled it. I protested, but I'm not on the board anymore, and so I have nothing I can do about that. But it will be coming.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, that's everybody, I think. Pretty sure. And so thanks again. Well, yeah, Sharon, do you want to?
No, I just wanted to mention to Catherine, the Ecology Ottawa project may not be dead. We're hoping that the Psalm project is going ahead. I'm the contractor that's supposed to be going after all the buckthorn.
And I just realized, thank you, Sharon. I just realized also that I didn't tell you about my project, which is in Carlington Woods. And we started it's on Clyde Avenue where we are, because we started this bee and butterfly patch or pollinator garden on Clyde, just next to the woods. And of course, we were taking buckthorn out of that garden area and looking behind the fence where the woods are, seeing all this buckthorn, waiting to just reinvade the garden. So we started removing from behind the fence. And then, was it last year? I guess we went, well, it'd be cool if we could, expand our efforts. And so I've kind of drawn a line throughout. It goes through two paths that make a bit of an arc or triangle with Clyde Avenue, and that take in a small portion, about a quarter of a hectare of Carlington Woods, that we're kind of using as a kind of a test area, if you like, to see what we can get done for how long, and how we can really manage as we might move forward, because Carlington Woods is also very invaded with common buckthorn in particular, as well as honeysuckle, which we take out as we go along as well. So good, then I think we'll move on to our next item, which I thought we might spend maybe 10 minutes or so on just throwing out challenges that people are having. In particular, like, again, just item by item, whether it's not being able to access tools, or not being able to find plants, or just having such a big area, like, what do I do now? So just a kind of free for all. And again, Sharon will take notes. So who has something they'd like to throw in on that topic? You can even repeat something you've said, so it's okay. Oh, I see if Brian has his hand up, and then Christine.
I'm sure we all have challenges, so I won't take too much time here. But I can think of a couple off the top of my head. One is where we're working is on riverbank, and so it's steep, and most of our volunteers are seniors. And so I'm really worried that somebody's going to fall and break an ankle or something. And I just wonder if anybody has any advice on on how we can tackle that, because we've actually
Student volunteers. Student volunteers, I use them all the time. I've got teenagers who have graduated, but they're great.
Okay, yeah. We've actually avoided the worst slopes because it's just too dangerous. And yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think we can get into solutions maybe a bit more later, but there are ways to get more volunteers. So I think that we can find ways to help you out on that.
Okay. Second thing is,
sorry, can I just quickly mention, because we work with the NCC, not the NCC,
Rideau Valley Conservation Authority.
Right.
Yeah.
They say don't work on no buckthorn removal on slopes, because on the river bank, because of concerns of erosion. So, we're kind of like, well, okay, well, we'll try to plant good stuff so that eventually they'll let us remove the bad stuff. So just warning you about that. Erosion is an issue that
I won't ask them. Second question is, we this past fall, we didn't get our grant from the Invasive Species Action Fund until early summer. And it took most of the summer, in fact, into September, to get a consent to enter from the city. And so we didn't start removing buckthorn until October, by which time all the common buckthorn berries had ripened. And it was a nightmare, and we were trying as much as we could to clip off the fruit clusters and bag them. But the big concern there was whether we were actually doing more harm than good by spreading berries around as we were removing buckthorn bushes. So lesson learned there: if we can get started earlier in the season, we can remove the buckthorn before the fruit ripens. Anyways, those are the two things I thought I'd bring up.
Those are great. Yeah. Thank you. Christine.
Thank you very much. My question is, specifically to Jillian, please. I would like to know step by step and inch by inch exactly how you got your consent to enter, because I've been roguing it and I'm still roguing it, Sharon. I can't believe I haven't had the guts yet to like move on this. But, and you know what, that's why I've been reluctant to kind of, involve too many other people. We just had one group work bee this summer at some point. But yeah, is that something you could?
I haven't. One thing that we learned was we knocked our heads against the wall most of the summer asking the wrong people at the city. And in the end, we got in the end, we didn't get a consent to enter. We got a stewardship agreement from the forestry department, and it was Maddie Biscaro who was our contact. And so yeah, we tried going through the real estate office because that's who usually issues the consent to enter, and they didn't know what to do with us. Our city councilor was not all that helpful, and as I say, in the end, it was forestry.
Brian, could you make sure that Sharon gets the name of that person?
We have it, yeah.
Okay.
I know Maddie Biscaro.
Okay, because that would be
that's how we got ours. And yes, it's a stewardship agreement, and yes, it takes forever. We have one because we managed to get one 3 years ago, and so it's been a question of renewals, and that helps. It's for the first time it takes forever, but renewals are a little speedier, but endless patience. And Maddie Biscaro is the one person in the whole city who is involved with this. And there's a zillion new organizations across the city who are involved in this kind of thing. So I feel a bit sorry for Maddie Biscaro that she's one person and she's totally swamped. But at least the city did take the initiative to hire somebody specifically to interact with groups such as ours.
Yeah. One thing I would say about those stewardship agreements is they are annually renewable. But one thing we've discovered almost right away is that I wish that we had scoped our project area larger than we did, because now we have to get the city to approve a larger area, and I'm hoping that won't be a problem. But it would be nice if we didn't have to go through that process.
I'd agree with that one. Yes, make them too big, and then if you don't fulfill it, you can still come back and do it another year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's some good input there. I'm not sure if it was Iola or Eugenie was first, so I'll go with Iola.
Thank you. I just want to point out that in April 2022, the former councillor from Alta Vista had a motion at the standing committee that was then Environment, Protection, Water, and Waste Management. And as a result of that, Maddie was hired, I guess, or transferred from somewhere. The process is impossible. Sharon Body, I will leave to tell you what's been happening behind closed doors at the city. But as far as I know, the information on how to apply for what is now called a stewardship permit, stewardship agreement, was supposed to go up on the city website, so it would be easy for people to find, fill in, and understand. In spite of, I think, instructions to city staff, that has never happened. I believe that it's about time now that we really get involved at the political level and get our councillors pushing to have the city move a little bit faster. If the city staff can't and won't allow permits to happen, then that is the political decision that the councillors are going to have to overturn. I think it's time that we really spoke up loud and clear and said the city can't do it. They don't have the staff. We have people who are willing to do the work. Get off your stuff and let us go to work. We know what we're doing. There are enough of us who can provide information and techniques and advice to other people who don't precisely know what it is they're doing, we can do the job. Stand aside and let us do it. I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah. Way to go, Iola. I'd just like to say we know more than most of the city staff.
Yeah, I
Oh
think,
dear,
well, I'd say that's probably
what
true.
happened now?
Yeah.
Good points, Iola. This is where we're going, I think, hopefully. You, Janie.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple questions. One is I'm curious if anyone else has done the high cutting method where you cut it at about waist height and then trim multiple times throughout the season, and how successful people have been, because we're trying it out now, but this will be our first round of it. So that's one question. And then I was just wondering about the pros and cons of getting the consent to enter from the city, because Christina, who's not here at the moment, but she spoke to her city councilor for Vanier about doing some buckthorn removal in the Père Blanc Vanier Woods area near Museo Park Vanier. And she was sort of told to just don't bother with a consent to enter, just do it guerrilla style. So I'm wondering what people advise and why. And I think those were my two questions. And then I was actually interested to know if anyone, maybe Iola knows, but if there's any, like the NCC along the river, basically between Rockcliffe all the way to Orleans is like full of buckthorn. And I'm just wondering if there's anyone who's had any progress working in those areas. Just being along the ski trail there recently, about every 15 or 20 feet, there's like a buckthorn right on the river edge that's like full of like huge full of berries. And so I just think like if they could at least just come and take down those completely berry laden trees, it would give a head start to someone who was interested in working there.
Right. Did anybody want to answer any of those points? Okay, Brian.
So we have had a little bit of experience now with critical period cutting. We haven't yet, because we started so late, all we did was we topped the big trees, removed the crowns, and left basically a standing stump that's about head height. And then we flagged them all with flagging tape. And then the plan is to come back next year and start the process of removing all the regrowth. And I have a lot of hope for it, but I don't have enough experience to know how well it's going to turn out. The question about consent to enter and whether it's
Can somebody let the dog in, please? Thank you.
We do a kind of hybrid approach where we have official sanction to be working, and I do that because if I have a large group of people with a lot of tools, it's a very well-traveled multi-use path that we're working along, and I don't want to get hassled. I want to be able to show that we are there with official permission. But if I'm working on my own or with one or two other people, I'm happy to go in and do some guerrilla gardening. And I don't ask anybody about that. But that's less likely to attract attention. And for me, it's a question of there are well-intentioned people who know nothing about trees who will object if they see you cutting down a tree along the riverbank, right?
Yeah.
Why not? And so you want to be able to show that you're not just some random idiot.
Yeah, I know. We had that happen the very first time we started working in the bee and butterfly patch on Clyde, and they were very quickly told that we had the right to be there, and that was the last thing we had a problem with. So we had received city approval as well.
Most people are very appreciative, but I just didn't want to have to run that risk of some bylaw guy coming along in a pickup truck and telling us to screw off.
Yeah. Sharon. You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah. I'm trying to lower my hand and unmute myself at the same time. Okay, so a couple of points. I think most people here do work on city land, we work predominantly with NCC, Nora and I, because the Carlington Woods and most of Hampton Park is NCC. They are a breeze to work with in comparison to the city. So if you are on NCC property, go after them for a land access permit, and you can make that as wide as you want. I've never had a consent to enter, technically, because we were supposed to get one for one garden, and they never gave it to us, but we went ahead and did it anyway. So Eugenie, I have heard the exact same story from that counselor. It was probably you who may have told me, or somebody else who may have also mentioned the story. There's pro and con, as Brian said, to doing it guerrilla style. The one thing I can tell you that is people usually don't argue with is a high-vis vest.
Yeah, we all need
Okay.
to get a vest that says
But
official
seriously, if you're gonna
volunteer.
guerrilla, if you're gonna do it, have a high-vis vest. Make it look like you know what you're doing. And the community, there is a community workshop coming this Saturday in to Iola's point about us being a lot more forceful on this. We are communing. We've got about 40 people already registered for it. We're communing quite a large cross-section of the city and groups to work on exactly all of these issues. So it's coming. The next iteration for council, it's going to be going to the Community Services Committee on March 25th, then to full council on April 1st. So stuff is coming.
Yeah, just to say a bit more about that, because I did want to mention that too, is if you don't know about it, they're trying to convene people to help get a sort of unified voice to speak to the city and the councilors, but I don't know, mainly the city, I guess, on both growing food in the right of way type of thing, and also getting access to do invasive species removal. So greening initiatives and community garden types of projects. And although the city's been having this consultation on it, we're not confident that they've got a very good sense of what everybody really wants and needs. And so we're trying to get ahead of the city coming out with something that's just not going to do what we need. So that's the purpose of the meeting on Saturday. So if people would like to, if they don't know about it already and would like to know about it, is that fair enough to say, Sharon, that we could send them invitation? Because you're more active on it than I am.
Yeah, if people haven't heard about it, if you want me to send you the information where you can register for it, I'd be happy to do that. I see some nods.
Maybe
Yes,
you
no?
could just post it in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I can't take notes. Find it on
Oh,
my
okay.
machine in the chat. So this is why I suggested let me email it to you afterwards. Then I can be present here. So
yeah, we've
you
got
can't.
all your email addresses, so let's do it that way. Okay, Natalie.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the NCC down at our work down at Sawmill Creek, going down to the Rideau River. Suzanne is our project leader, if you don't mind, Suzanne. The City Stream Watch project, which is in partnership, run by the Rideau Valley Conservation Area, but done in partnership with the city and the NCC. And down there, it's kind of like you're sometimes on one, you're sometimes on the other. And the advantage is that because seeds travel, we are given a wide leeway. We can go, apparently, we were told we can go like almost a kilometer out in terms of so it's a kind of like guerrilla planting, but not really, because they understand that seeds fly and seeds are carried by birds, et cetera, et cetera. So we were told by the RSPC, our Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, that you are given quite a large territory to work with. That's what we were told. Anyway, obviously we know, especially with dog strangling vine, we're focusing on the dog strangling vine, and especially with buckthorn, we're focusing specifically. But in terms of the nature restoration aspects, the more and more that we have available, because it's a question of having enough plants available to do the work. That's one of our big challenges. And soil and all the cost involved. I do want to thank Ron Ridley. I didn't thank him before. I guess he's not there now, but they were really helpful. Are the Riverview Park Association just next to us. So I just wanted to make those points.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That was to the point about whether it's worthwhile getting the formal consent to enter type of thing, eh? So I think we've gone through quite a number of issues that people have had, and some of them responded to as well. I'm sure there's more to be said about all of those. But what I'd like to do now, we've got about 40 minutes left, and won't use all of that time, but a good part of it to maybe add to the list I already have, which I shared with everybody if you had a chance to look at the agenda. I threw down a bunch of things that I thought that we could do as a sort of, I'm calling it a kind of loose collective because I don't want people to be too freaked out that they're joining another group, you know, and with meetings and things that are going to take up time. But, you know, I just wanted, my main idea was to be able to have, you know, be able to connect with each other and pool our resources, whether that's like we talked about equipment, or whether it's finding out how to find more volunteers, or you know, anything like that, or, you know, combining our voice to address the city for needs that we may have. And we could be more specific around, like, I'm still referring to this as buckthorn, and I know there's lots of other invasive plants, but they all have different ways of dealing with them. You know, it's the kind of thing that maybe we can formulate a what do you call it, a sort of method, or trying to think of the words.
Best practices?
Well, kind of best practices, but a line of attack for the city, you know, like what do we call it, Sharon, where the city has a strategy, I guess, for dealing with.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of, a strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like the NCC has a strategy to deal with knotweed, for example. Right. So,
which may be adaptation of a best management practice, but more sort of like thinking in terms of where in the city they might want us to focus, or, you know, things like that. So who knows? But as I said, I put down a few ideas. One, I can just read them for now, and then you can add to them. Well, one of them is informing each other on successful strategies that we've been able to do, informing each other about new findings in the literature. So those, you know, people are publishing, Minnesota being one example, University of Minnesota publishing on research. Document what we are doing for the city and or for the NCC, so that they at least know, if we want them to know. Sharing tools, expertise, and other resources. Compiling a directory of our contact information with details of our projects. So that I've actually put a starting document on the shared drive, which I hope to get better shared once things work out, once I sort that out. And then discussing ways to get funding, and maybe beefing up our ability to get funding at a broader scale. So who has things they'd like to add to that list? I see Sharon and then Iola.
I had a question for Iola. The updated guide, when does that come out? And could we use that as a sort of you know, almost like the baseline as our signature going forward for the city, for, you know, for what you were talking about, like sort of
Well, to answer that, I'm not in charge of that process anymore. I am working to write it and edit it. We have simply recently gone through something like a revision of 20 of the technical documents, and as soon as the person who, or the organization that paid for their update gives the okay, they will be posted on the OIPC's website. When will I get the Buckthorn one done? I don't know. I got a lot of things going on in my life right now, but I am, at least I have it open. And thanks to the two new PDFs that Nora put up, I'll add those to the list. of things that people should look at. But what I did want to say was there is a product called Lauside chondro. It is a naturally occurring fungus made by a company that works out of Cornwall. So it is Canadian. You can buy it. It's Canadian. It causes a disease called silverleaf. It works on a wide variety of native trees. But it is something that is native to the environment. I've actually even seen it on a tree in the Gatineaus. We did a 3-year project, or it takes 3 years to see whether it worked or not, in Rockcliffe Park in 3 different locations. The tree is cut off at the buckthorn is cut off at the base. Stuff is applied as a kind of paste. Next year, the plant doesn't look as if anything has happened, that it comes back in full bloom, but year 3, it's supposed to die. I'm waiting now to see what happens in this spring, to see whether or not the material was successful. Unfortunately, 2 of my study sites were impossible to get to, so I can't really do much except stand back and look at the cut off branches and stems from a distance with binoculars. My impression was that on common buckthorn, it is not as effective as it has been in the eastern townships on glossy buckthorn. But stay tuned. I will be reporting to anybody who listens, who wants to listen, on how well the stuff worked. It is an alternative to some of the nastier toxic chemicals that people don't like. And if it works well, then perhaps the city and the NCC can use it. We will see what happens.
Iowa, how expensive is it?
Probably very expensive, and it requires someone who is a registered pesticide applicator to use it. If we knew how to, go to a tree and scrape the stuff off and culture it ourselves, I guess we could do it. But no, it's not. It's got to be done by someone who is technically competent and licensed by the province.
Yeah, well, Oila, that you just made the whole reason why we're having this group. Not the only one, but there's a good one. That's what I hope we will do, is share that kind of information, even if we can't use it right away, but we can know it might be coming. Well,
the nice thing was that the forestry people did pay for the application.
Cool.
The downside is that it may not have worked as well as we had all hoped, but we'll find out.
Yeah, and just going back to the question earlier about the critical period cutting, for some reason I have great faith in this, but we've only started it ourselves in the last year on a significant scale, so it'll be a little while before we can report. But I know when I first looked at like the guideline on that, I didn't quite twig what they meant by critical period, and I think that's key to its functionality, or it's working, because you need to cut at a time when the plant has just given up all its root resources to produce all its leaves. So you cut it back, and then you've depleted the roots of what they've stored from the previous year. And then over the summer, while it regrows all those leaves, taking up more resources from the roots as well as from the sky. And then just before it pulls down all the nourishment from those leaves and drops them, is when you cut it back again. So it's important to do it at those times to get the most bang for your buck, basically, which means you only have to do it twice a year. And supposedly it's done, you've killed the plant within 2, maybe 3 years. But it's physical work and it takes time. So. But people love taking those shoots off. I'm letting Christine in. I'll get back in, I guess. All right. So anybody else have another way that we could be making use of this group, this collective that hasn't been mentioned, or do you want to support what we've heard? Or
Guys,
Well,
I just want to apologize. I had an internet meltdown and I don't even know why. You know, these things just kind of happen all of a sudden. So I'm really sorry that I've missed a whole bunch, but yeah, I'll join right in again.
the like the meeting's being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it if you need to. Owen, I see your hand up.
Just one topic I'd like to bring up is the option of biocontrols that are encouraged, maybe or like looked for by this group. So probably some of you have seen in the last few years that it looks like fall webworm is taking a bit of a liking to common or cathartic buckthorn. Probably that's going to have a fairly modest impact because that's not really known to be a aggressive defoliator really anywhere, but it takes a bit of a bite out of it, and it's a native insect switching to a very abundant invasive food source, right? Much more excitingly to me regarding the glossy buckthorn problem, there's a native moth that's native south of here, like in the United States, called the variable narrowwing. And I observed it with Jacob Mueller and some others completely defoliating glossy buckthorn last year. And independently, Christine Hanrahan, another well-known insect expert from the area, observed it completely defoliating glossy buckthorn in La Rose Forest, about 50 kilometers away. We were at Robert Graham Conservation Area, which is near Spencerville. So, at some point, I think this is an opinion, but I think that for there to be really any real hope here for some of these invasive species, there has to be biocontrols that help us do this work. And just something I want to bring up is just that topic. And there is some good news. That variable narrowing, I think, is quite an exciting prospect. I'll give it just quick background. So that moth is a native defoliator of Carolina buckthorn, which is a native shrub way south of here, like way past the so-called Carolinian zone, right? They were talking like, mid-Atlantic US and south. And glossy buckthorn is invasive all the way from the Northeast into the central eastern United States now. It seems to me that it's just switched to a very similar invasive plant, right? That it's like, oh, you look a lot like Carolina buckthorn. I'm going to start eating you too. And
That's exciting.
so just something to look out for when you're in your travels this year. Certainly on glossy, it probably won't eat cathartic buckthorn because glossy and cathartic aren't really that closely related, and it's a specialist of the Frangula subgenus of the buckthorns, like the false buckthorns, like glossy buckthorn. But yeah, it's just something to look out for, and that is on iNaturalist in case anyone wants to check it out. It was also observed in the northern United States a couple of years ago before it was observed in Canada last year.
Oh, and when you say defoliate, is that a seasonal defoliation and then the tree recovers the following year, or is it a more permanent defoliation?
That's a great question, Brian. We don't know the answer, I don't think. So, because it's only been seen for one season, just last year, 2024, by two independent kind of groups. We don't really know what the implications are, but it was full defoliation of like a pretty significant patch in both cases. And, most plants aren't invasive because something eats them, right? Fungus, insect, whatever, something keeps them in check. The reason why they're invasive is they're out of whack with the local environment, right? So if this insect can regularly take a big bite out of glossy buckthorn, it may be just like the purple loosestrife thing, right? From the 1980s, it was considered to be like kind of the end of the world for wetlands. It's still an annoying problem in wetlands, but since there was a beetle released intentionally to eat purple loosestrife, it's gone from being dominant aggressive to annoying naturalized, right? Huge effect.
Yeah. Okay. That's very
Fabulous. Wow.
My experience with glossy buckthorn is it's actually more difficult to remove glossy buckthorn using the same methods you use for common buckthorn, because glossy buckthorn tends to be multi-stemmed, and it's also more difficult to identify. A lot of people can identify common buckthorn, and glossy is frankly, a more attractive looking tree, and people tend to ignore it.
Yeah, well, maybe we should have the group out to find some of these and get to know them. Owen, you can lead that.
I'd be happy to do that. And I think one reason why a lot of people are less familiar, there's maybe two reasons. I'll give both reasons why I think. One is glossy buckthorn was introduced much later after cathartic. So the common one, cathartic, was released in the 17 and 1800s, and it's basically fully gotten almost everywhere where it's going to get, but it's getting more invasive in places with disturbance like cities. Glossy buckthorn was released about 100 years after that, late 1800s-ish, and is still actually actively spreading. So meaning if you get far enough from big cities, you don't see glossy buckthorn at all. So we're talking like near Bourget, a little east of La Rose Forest, like more of like Plantagenet maybe, 50, 60K from Ottawa, but not towards Montreal far enough. There's a hole where there's no glossy buckthorn. I grew up in Russell. In the 1980s, there was no glossy buckthorn in Russell. It hadn't gotten there yet from, I guess, invading from Ottawa, and now it's just dominant, right? But yeah, so it's also maybe not as widespread, but glossy is also in wetlands mostly, right? So like bogs, fens, wet conditions where people hike less, but it's really, really bad in those wetlands to the point where it might be making local species already go extinct. Like there's certain species that are uncommon shrubs and some of the orchids and things that are getting really hard to find or almost impossible to find. And it's often in places where they were living where glossy buckthorn has just taken over. So it's really bad. So this insect may be a bit of good news. I put the name of it in the chat in case anyone wants to check it out.
Okay, yeah. Well, that just reminds me of a point. I'll get to Barbara and Iowa in a minute, second. But just that when one part of the strategy that we should be considering is looking where there aren't any or very few of these invasive, specimens, and getting rid of the ones that are, at the edges of their travel, if you like. So it's important for us to learn to watch out for even individuals, because it'd be easier to remove those and keep whatever area that those are found in free of those buckthorn, rather than, I mean, we know what it's like now to try and remove it when it's densely invaded an area. So Barbara, and then I'll.
Yeah, so I don't think we've talked anything really about what we're going to use instead of the buckthorn to plant after we've removed it. I'm sure people have lots of ideas about that. So I'm just putting that question out. What are we doing after you've cleared an area? Some of these groups have been successful in getting rid of it for the most part in some areas. And have you planted something there instead? I was on a webinar recently, and they were talking about chokeberry, Ronia melancarpa, possibly being planted instead. Anybody have any thoughts on what could be planted instead?
Yeah, well, there are some recommendations in the University of Minnesota work, and there are things like red elderberry and gray dogwood, and there's a couple of trees and a couple of other shrubs that they've used in their research. But then most recently, I noticed on their website, as of 2024, they were starting to say, look, plant whatever you can, native plants. The idea is preferably for them to be inclined to cast a shadow over the new growth, right? Like the seedlings that may come up. So whatever you can plant that would, dense enough and quick enough to sprout so that they shade out the seedlings is one of the considerations. But we can share information on plants maybe as a way.
And that worked for us in Carlington because we were able to shade out a lot of it. Just the goldenrod, natural goldenrod. We didn't even, this just came in on its own, and it was able to shade out a lot of new growth. So we don't have as much of an issue there. So yeah, I think Nora's right. If anything you can get in there.
Yeah. Iola?
If you want to see glossy buckthorn and you live somewhere around Bank Street, Lower Bank, the boardwalk at the Leitrim wetland on both sides is nothing but glossy buckthorn.
Say that again. Sorry, it was not
the Leitrim wetland.
Okay, Leitrim.
At Leitrim.
Okay.
There is a boardwalk that runs through the wetland, done by the not Rideau Valley, it's the other one, South Nation,
South Nation.
South Nation's boardwalk. And we participated in an experiment with someone in Belgium who needed glossy buckthorn, glossy buckthorn leaves from 3 different locations, preferably in a straight line. So Fred Schuler and I collected glossy buckthorn leaves and sent them off to Belgium. And if anyone is interested in knowing how the genome has changed a bit, or the genotype has changed a bit since it was first introduced, I can send you a PDF of the paper. But it's changed a bit since it was introduced into North America. It's an interesting paper, and it was an interesting example of being able to cooperate with somebody internationally on something that is happening in North America.
I'll just quickly speak to that too. Thanks, Iola. That Leitrim wetland, this is an example of that glossy buckthorn has caused like severe ecological change. That wetland is not the same as it was even in the 1990s. A lot of species in there are just gone now because of glossy buckthorn. It's really sad.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more hands up on issues that we might, or really things that we could do as a collective. Okay, Sharon's got her hand up, and Natalie.
There was just one thing I wanted to bring up because there's at least 3 of us who've applied for the invasive species micro grant. I'm assuming everybody's just gone after the micro grant. One thing I wanted to look into, because this always happens, the deadlines for these things come up at the last minute. So using this group, and I'm not suggesting we even talk about it tonight, but start thinking about maybe we go after one of those transformative grants, the $50,000 one, the $15,000 one. So we get perhaps a geographic collection of groups. Maybe it's Brian's area. Maybe there's a spot where you can get a good number of groups involved and really have a successful application where we could all support something like that. So just mainly, I just wanted to toss that out to keep people sort of thinking about it, and go look at the application guidelines. Never heard.
Sounds good. Thank you for mentioning that. Natalie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of working together, we're really appreciative of how we have worked together or in partnership, and the support that we got in Alta Vista from the 2 of you, Sharon and Nora, from your group, but also from Ron Ridley from Rideau Park, Riverview Park, sorry, and from Sandy. I mean, just borrowing tools, because we haven't had any grants at all, despite applying for a bunch of grants, TD1 and others. And so I think that's something, it's almost a tool library, an informal tool library, and it's really been really appreciated.
Fabulous. Okay, I see Christina Keys is coming in to join us, which is maybe good timing. What I had wanted to do once we were done item 3, which we seem to have, was talk about where to go from here. But I also want to mention a question in case we run out of time and I forget. Should we invite people from the NCC and or the city to join this group? Like we talked about Maddie Viscaro, and we have contacts at the NCC that are quite cooperative with us, and although they're not able to offer us a lot, but it's more the idea that having them here so they know what our issues are, and also the breadth of the work we're doing, things like that. Is that a positive, or we have concerns about having any those people present while we talk? Any thoughts?
I think it may be difficult to get them here. The city doesn't like to chat about things. I mean, even if you just say, you're going to be just if you just want to sit and listen. But I would have no problem with that. but I don't know how much of they take us up on the offer. The NCC would probably be a lot more willing to sit in a forester. So maybe we go after like a forester and not Maddie. We know a couple of other foresters that we can call on at
So
the city.
people, the hands-on people rather than the decision makers.
Well, yeah, that may be the better way to go because, as Brian said, he got more success going through the forestry route. And I've heard other people saying that if they're dealing with woods and they're doing invasives and it's on NCC or it's on city property, they're going through the forestry route now because they do have a form to fill out.
But that
You
is
know,
Maddie, I think.
I think that is
Yes.
Maddie. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
she's going to have to be roping in other foresters at some point. The Laura Wood, Michael Bloy, there's a bunch of them there that, they must be involved in some way.
Maddie has been invited by the people from cafes to dialogue, and consistently refuses. So she is either under some instructions not to speak to any of us, or doesn't have the time, or doesn't want to. I don't know what the problem is, but I just know that there is a problem. I mean, if they've had instructions to do something since April 2022, now we're coming up for 3 years pretty soon. When are we getting action?
Right, and that's action on being able to enter and do the work we want to do, right? Iola?
I think IO is referring to action on having a transparent and easily accessible process for acquiring the stewardship agreement. Right now, it's all very informal and done by emails, and you have to know who to talk to.
Yeah, my understanding was that there was supposed to be a form up on the city's website that you could fill in, preferably a fillable PDF, or not, just print it off and fax it in to somebody or scan it, whatever. My understanding was that that was what was supposed to happen. In 3 years, 2.5 years, it hasn't happened, and I'd like to know why. I guess I'm getting old and crotchety, maybe with an emphasis on the crotchety.
I hear you. I got 2 hands up. I'm not sure who came first, so I'll go with Catherine and then Christine Johnson.
I've had Maddie at meetings, and maybe that because there were other people like our VCA and stuff like that at the meetings, but we've engaged her. So maybe the fact that we were coming from the community aspect or representing the community, I don't know what it was, but I can just say that I have been able to, liaise with her.
Yeah, and I kind of had the impression that maybe people were getting rejected recently because of the development of this action plan that the city is working on. I don't know if others understand that to be the case or not.
That was the excuse they used when they shut down the memorial project in Stanley Park. That's exactly what they told us.
And they didn't shut the whole project down. They said that they're not willing to.
But they delayed it sufficiently that, do you want to be removed Buckthorn when it's 30 degrees outside? I didn't. I wanted to do it in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay, Christine Johnson.
Well, I've just actually lowered my hand.
Oh, you did.
I was just wondering, do we have any inkling of what's going on in our closest nearby communities like Manotick or, even as far as Merrickville or, Almonte?
How about Gatineau?
Is there any
Gatineau in general?
Yeah, I don't. But yeah, like I that's a question, I guess, is how far do we want to throw our boundary out? I don't think there's necessarily a problem with increasing the numbers, depending on how we end up communicating with each other on this. And if people know other people working in the city or aroundabouts, certainly let me know. In fact, I made a little map, and it's in the drive that I was trying to share, the folder. And I just put on where I thought, each of the people I already had on my list were working, just basically from the information I had. And it's just well, it's either a single point or a little tiny circle, which was not necessarily reflective of the actual size of your project, because I didn't know how big it was anyway. So it was partly to give myself an idea of where everybody was that we had connected with, and where we could look for others to join us. So once I get straightened out how everybody can access that folder, then you can have a look at those things. Now, Christina Keys, I'll just see if you want to speak right now for a few minutes before we figure out our next steps and then wrap up.
Hi there.
Hi.
Sorry. I'm in my car. I just got home from winter sowing with the Cubs. I just wanted to, I'm with the Manor Park Community Association. So Eugenie probably introduced what we're working on right now, but over the last year, I've developed a presentation for gardeners on invasive species management. So it was first requested by the Gloucester Horticulture Society. So I presented to them in the spring, and then I Just Food asked for that presentation as well. So I did that with them in the fall, and they had the most participants of any online workshop they've ever done. So I think there is a lot of interest in the public. So it's not an introductory to the concept of invasive. It sort of assumes people understand that basic concept of invasives are bad, native plants are good, and why. And it goes into more detail about the legislation and what is invasive and how do you define invasive. And then the practicalities of how to remove, I think about 10 species I go through. And, having combed through all the best practice documents and all the research about which method to use for which, that's all detailed. And then the last part is highlighting some of you in this meeting and the projects that are being done by communities, and how sort of the point of my presentation is that it has to be a community action. And the whole community has to pull together to do this. So I hopefully inspired some people to take some steps in their community. So anyway, I'd love to give that presentation again. If anyone knows of any places that would like to have that presentation done online or in person, I will be delivering it again in the spring in person at the Just Food Farm in person, with a practical element of showing people how to pull out some of the invasives they have on site. So hopefully we can promote.
I'm frozen. I'm waiting for you to unfreeze. Right. Okay, well, while we're waiting, okay, Christina, you were frozen for a few minutes, or not minutes, but a minute.
Christina, are you still there?
I think she is, but
oh, she's frozen.
If she turns off her video feed, it'll help with her speed and her freezing up.
Oh, there she is.
When did I freeze?
I think we got your basic message anyway, unless there was something important at the end, but
just that it will be delivered at Just Food. Did you get that part?
We got that part, yeah.
Great.
So
okay.
If you wanted to share with us the date of that and everything, then that might be helpful.
Great. It's not set yet, so I'll just share it with the group, and hopefully you can advertise that through everyone's networks and have a lot of participants. But if there's anyone else, any other groups anyone knows of, please get in touch. I'd love to give it again to different groups.
Sounds great.
Christina, would you come out to a community association meeting?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's an hour and a half, I think you said.
It's an hour and 10 minutes or so, plus 20 minutes for questions. There's always a lot of questions.
I just thought I'd mention that if it's a community.
Good, Nora. It would have to be outside of the meeting.
Yeah.
I can shorten it and not have the practical aspects of it, but I think that's what a lot of people do want, is the practical.
So,
and I'm assuming that, Nora, you've got Christina's contact?
Yes, and I was just going to ask everybody just confirmation. I can share everybody's contacts with everybody else in this group.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Anybody saying no? I don't see that. So that's super. I think that's the whole point of this kind of group. And so we only have a few minutes left, but any quick ideas on where we go next? We've talked about sharing information. There's a number of things. Do we want to meet again? Maybe in a month or so, with an agenda that we might pull together from what we've talked about today. I'm not quite sure yet what the agenda would be, other than maybe we didn't really get time to talk about what we might do next, I guess, as a group. So if we want to give it enough time, perhaps another meeting would be good for that. I don't want people to be overrun with meetings. That's my only concern. Christine, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Nora, maybe you guys discussed this when I was locked out, but is there a timeline, like when people do what? For instance, April through to November, roughly? Was that discussed at all? That might be something useful.
Yeah, so you were asking really about the practical how-to part, right? And I know a number of people here already pretty much know what they're doing, but I was hoping that we could talk about one thing we could share is like what issues we run into. For instance, if you have a woods where maybe you've got such a mixture of plants in there, do you cut all the buckthorn down, and then when do you go in with your new plantings? And there's just sort of these little challenges, how to time when you do things, like trying to deal with the females if there's a big enough area. Like there's a lot of, I found last year going through this, there were a lot of decisions that I seemed to run into that had to be made. So that, we could have another meeting focused on those practicalities. Any thoughts?
Well, and the different contexts that we're all like the actual different sites that we're working on. Like Carlington is different from what I'm having to do in Hampton. Hampton is actually easier. And I can do a full just remove and replace, boom, done. And then it's just a question of you manage the regrowth. We can't really do that as quickly as we've been wanting to do in Carlington. So yeah, there's these levels, but I think, it's a good point as to some of the research that's been coming out of Minnesota, exactly when you do it. And, you got to worry about bird nesting season and all the rest of it. So yeah, that may be a good sort of a like more of a practical workshop or something that we do next. That's just like, okay, what's worked for us and at what times.
Do I see some nods or not? No.
Sharon, did you mean the University of the Extension? University Extension, Minnesota? Is that what you're referring to?
University of Minnesota. There's
their extension service. That's what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't there extension service?
I think they also work with the Friends of Mississippi, like Mississippi River. The Friends of Mississippi River are applying the University of Minnesota's research. It's Mike Schuster at the Friends, and I can't remember who it is at Minnesota.
No, Mike Schuster's at the university, and Alan Roth is with Friends of Mississippi River, and he's a PhD who did his work on this topic with at the University of Minnesota. And they're a whole different level of friends of groups, because they've got paid staff and are dealing with quite a large area and so on and so forth. And they are doing some of their own research, which is where at least they cooperate with the university on the critical period cutting was initiated by the Friends and worked on with the university. So they're an excellent resource, I've found. Okay, so it is 8:30 now, and I'm not hearing anybody sort of coming forward with a particular plan, but I think I will do a think about it. I'm kind of liking the idea of getting down to a little more practical issues. But it's also, if you have any further thoughts on what we could be doing as a collective, or what you prefer as a you know, as maybe key things to do, you can send those to me by email. So, you know, so I can sort of rank what I got as a list. And does anybody have a problem with having a meeting in, say, a month?
I won't be here, but otherwise I would be happy to attend.
And are you away? When are you away?
I'm away March 2nd to April 7th.
Okay.
Iola also mentioned in the chat, you know, the sort of the idea of a site visit. So I don't know. I mean, online is easier for everybody, but that may be another thing that we can do if anybody, you know, or, you know, maybe we don't have to do it as a group. If somebody's interested in seeing what we're doing, we arrange for, you know, a site visit or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
At Carlington, you could see all 3 buckthorns.
Yeah, yes, and we have a monitoring system set up somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd love to have everybody out to Carlington Woods. It's a bit early, even in March, so we can think about that. There's, yeah, both the work we've been doing and, as Owen just said, being able to see the different buckthorns. I'm seeing there are a few comments in the chat. Now, do I get to keep this chat, Sharon? How does that work? I know.
So because it's recording on your machine,
Yeah.
once everybody leaves and you shut it down, it's going to start processing on your machine, and you will get all the files for the chat and video and audio.
And video, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Nora, it's Iola. I just copied it all into an email and sent it to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I think just, you know, from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom, just, you know, copy it and put it in an email and you now have it.
Okay, thank you. And I'm getting some very appreciated thank yous and at the end of this, and support for site visit and inspiring evening, all kinds of wonderful things. So I've really enjoyed meeting you all. And I'm feeling excited that we can maybe do something useful together and help each other out with the work we're all doing. So thank you very much. I think I'll adjourn the meeting then, if that's okay with everybody. Have a good night. And again, thank you so much.
Good
Bye.
stuff. Night. Do you want me to hang out for a second?
Yeah, you can stay on and we'll just have a quick.
Yep.
Bye, Brian. Bye, Rosemary.
No.
You can leave now.
All right. Well, that went well.
Oh, it went super.
And if you want to stop recording now, then it can start processing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I hit the